Welcome back to another Collectible Spotlight. I'm that Halloween movie collector, Pat. So, I'm going to be pretty busy this week, getting ready for Monster Mania Con next weekend, and I didn't have too much time to do a collectible deep dive. So I thought, since I did the same thing last week because I was on vacation, I said, why don't I just do another 5 favorites, so to speak, not the top 5, because it's more of my 5 favorites. So I figured, why not do 5 favorite Halloween soundtracks? Everybody loves the soundtracks. There's plenty of them, from the OG ones to Rob Zombie ones. So I thought, let me see. We actually just did it recently on Halloween Collectors Podcast, and I'll actually include a link right up here. You can go check that out, where we did our top 5 soundtracks, each of our own, and you can go check that out. So I'm going to list my 5, if you hadn't seen that already, and talk a little bit about them and a little bit of nostalgia of why I chose these particular ones as my top 5. Just in true ranking fashion, what a lot of YouTubers do, there's always an honorable mention. So I do have an honorable mention, and it's a relatively new movie. It's only a year old. Halloween Kills. The Halloween Kills soundtrack, brought back John Carpenter, Cody Carpenter, Daniel Davies from 2018 soundtrack, and they knocked it out of the park with that one. And this one is no exception. I thought there's something great. I mean, everybody's polarized about this movie, about certain things they like, certain things they don't like, but I don't think anybody's going to argue the soundtrack, how great it is. Carpenter typical Carpenter, did a great job with the soundtrack. So that's my honorable mention. And here are my Halloween Kills vinyl, cassette, and CD releases. So going in numerical order, my number 5 soundtrack is same thing. Very polarizing movie. It has its fans, has its critics, has its haters. But I love the soundtrack. It's a very nostalgic time in my life. This is Halloween 5. Halloween 5 basically had a whole group of songs, which I believe were local Utah bands. That's why they were used, because they filmed the movie in Salt Lake City, Utah. And the rest was the typical soundtrack from Alan Howarth. And it just got some great sounds, some creepy sounds. Even the songs, I can probably sing the words to every single song on this album, just because I used to listen to it in my car riding around in 1989. I had the cassette tape, and I just listened to it because I just loved the movie, and it was just a great time in 1989. I was 17, got my license, drove to the theater to see Halloween 5, drove to the record town to buy the soundtrack to listen to it. So it's very nostalgic. Now, the movie, obviously, we could do another whole episode on just that movie alone. Its strengths, its weaknesses, its haters, its lovers, but we'll go down that rabbit hole maybe on a different one. And here are my Halloween 5 vinyl, cassette, and CD releases. Number 4, keeping in line with polarizing movies with its haters and lovers, but you can't deny one thing about Halloween 3. That soundtrack is fantastic. It's one of his best. Chariots of Pumpkins, just so much atmosphere in that movie due to the soundtrack. I personally love Halloween 3. It has its haters, and I get it. It's Myers or die, and I get that. I'm a Myers guy. You can see it, but I do love Halloween 3. I saw it in the theater when it came out. I was a little angered that it didn't have a Myers in it either. But it grew on me. I've grown to love it over the years, and I think it's a great movie. Love Tom Atkins. But the soundtrack, I don't think anybody's going to even argue that. Great tunes on it. Great atmosphere. I just love it. It reminds me so much of Escape from New York soundtrack, which I love too, which came out a little bit before that. So that would be one of my other favorites. And here are my Halloween 3 vinyl, cassette, and CD releases. My number 3, same thing. Relatively new, Halloween 2018. Brought back Carpenter into the fold, brought his son and Daniel Davies in, and they just did a fantastic job. I was skeptical. I was hoping it was going to be real good, and bringing Carpenter back, because I do love John. If you never checked out any John Carpenter's other albums where it's just music and like the Lost Themes collections, if you like Carpenter soundtracks, go check that stuff out. A lot of it is really, really good. So 2018 came out. Everybody was pumped for the movie, and Carpenter's involved. He's doing the soundtrack, and the soundtrack did not disappoint. I'm sorry. I mean, for me to put it number 3, because there's so many of the Halloween movies, and I'm a nostalgia Halloween guy, and more of the OG than anything. But the music was fantastic. The Shape Hunts Allison. I mean, I listen to that all the time in my car on my playlists. So I have to give a lot of props to that one, Halloween 2018. And here are my Halloween 2018 vinyl, cassette, and CD releases. Now, number 2. Like I said, I'm a nostalgia guy, so I could pretty much guess that you guys are going to know where I'm going with these last 2. Number 2 would have to be Halloween 2, 1981. It's just especially nostalgic. It was the first Halloween I saw in the theater. I saw it opening weekend when it came out. And the music was a little, it was a little off-putting because it's a little synthy for me at the time. And I thought, I'm like, wow, this is a little weird. But as the movie progressed, I realized how much of a creepy atmosphere it created with that synth. So I loved it. I'm like, this is really, really good. It wasn't just that typical piano with the synth. It actually made it a little creepier in the hospital setting. The typical mood and lighting that Dean Cundy brought to Halloween 2 that he had in Halloween 1. So I did it. It did great. And it's number 2. Not just for nostalgic reasons. It's just great. I had to go by what I listen to the most. And if you see my playlists, everybody looks at it like, oh, you listen to all these soundtracks, just the music from these movies? I'm like, yeah, I do. And I drive around all the time and I enjoy it. During my long commutes, yes, I do. So that's my number 2, Halloween 2. And here are my Halloween 2 vinyl, cassette, and CD releases. And now we've come to the pièce de résistance, number 1. And what else would it be but the OG Halloween, the first one, the one that started it all for me. I didn't see Halloween. I saw Halloween for the first time in 1980, October 31st, 1980 on HBO. I didn't see it in the theaters. And I scared the crap out of me, fell in love with it. Just look at everything behind me. You'll see how long I've been a fan since way back when, since then, since 1980. And just the music, that's movies just when I first saw it scared the crap out of me. It really did. I was 1980, I was 8 years old, and it scared the poop out of me. It was fantastic. And to this day, it's still my favorite movie. I love everything about it. The soundtrack is no exception. Everything Carpenter did in that to create that suspense and that atmosphere, just like he said in the documentary, where he showed the movie to a film company who I forget who it was at the time, and the producer said, "This isn't scary." And I guess if you actually watched it with the sound off, which I've never done, maybe it isn't. But put that music in there, that just really took it to a different level. And I don't have to, if you're watching this, you're obviously a Halloween fan, so I'm preaching to the choir. So I'm sure you feel the same way. So that's my favorite. Specifically, the 20th anniversary edition that came out on CD. Because for those that have it, they included a lot of the sound bites from the movie. So if I'm driving and I put that in, you're listening to the music, but they also have specific speaking parts from the movie. So it's like you're watching it in your head while you're driving. And it's fantastic. Plus, the later versions took out that thumping beat on the Halloween soundtrack. I'm not sure if a lot of only Halloween geeks like myself and most of you, if you're watching this, know that it had that thumping bass drum. For whatever reason that was added. Usually, first when it came out with the Japanese vinyl is where it first appeared. And did translate over to the first releases of Halloween. And eventually, thank God, they did away with it because, it wasn't horrible because it's still the Halloween soundtrack. You loved it. But it didn't belong because you wanted exactly what you heard in the movie. So why are you altering it? So that would be my number one. As a matter of fact, if you'd like to check it out, I did do a collectible spotlight on the first Japanese release of the Halloween theme, which actually was the very first release of the Halloween theme before it was released in 1983 in the States. And that I could do the comparison of what it sounded like with that thumping bass drum versus the later release without the thumping bass drum. So I'm actually going to put a link to that right here if you want to go check that collectible spotlight out. And here are my Halloween vinyl, cassette, and CD releases. Now, going through the other soundtracks, I love them all. Aside from like H2O, and the Resurrection, which is the whole debacle with the Scream soundtrack music and everything. I can honestly say they're just sitting there collecting dust. I don't really listen to any of them. The rest of them are good. Even the Rob Zombie one's got some great stuff on it. The Rob Zombie 2 doesn't really have a lot of soundtrack on the specific soundtrack one, but for those who are fans of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, go check out Captain Clegg and the Night Creatures. That was the band that was playing at the Phantom Jam. And if you like psychobilly music, like that type of crazy stuff, man, that is a great CD. So I can't recommend it highly enough if you're into that type of stuff. If you like Mojo Nixon or Reverend Horton Heat, go check out Captain Clegg and the Night Creatures. That's a great disc. So with that being said, that's what I had to put together for this week. I'll do a collectible spotlight where I do delve into a specific collectible probably next week because I'll be back on track. Vacation's over. Monster Mania will be over. For those that are watching this on the Friday night premiere at 10 o'clock, Monster Mania will be going on. I'll be at Monster Mania all weekend with my good friend Brett Patrick, who's on the Halloween Collectors podcast with me. And there's a link to our latest Halloween Collectors podcast. If you see myself or you see Brett walking around, don't be shy. Come over and say hello. It'd be great to meet more collectors and fans. So I'll be there all weekend long. So don't be shy. And if you're not at Monster Mania, well, we have plenty of Halloween content either on this channel or you can go watch the Halloween Collectors podcast over on the Michael's Horror and Pinball channel, which we do every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, with my good buddies, and we just do rankings. We show collectibles, what we have, what we're looking for, talk music, talk other movies, other horror movies, just everything in general. It's just a lot of fun. It's not just specifically 100% Halloween. It's just whatever comes to mind and whatever everybody in the chat brings up, and we have a great time. Go check it out. I guarantee you'll have a good time. Also, if you would like to see anything behind me or what I collect or what's in my collection, you can go to my Instagram, which is at that Halloween movie collector, where my collection is. I try to post daily, if not every other day, things that I've got and things that are coming in. So feel free to check that out. A lot of cool stuff there, especially if you're a hardcore collector like myself. A lot of cool stuff. And if you're into Facebook, go check out my Halloween collectors group, Halloween and Michael Myers collectors group over on Facebook. Great group of people. There's a lot going on in there now because there's a lot of Spirit Halloweens are starting to open up. I just hit one today and got some stuff. Not everything that was there, but I got some stuff. So the Spirit Halloweens are starting up. You're going to start seeing a lot more stuff come out. So as soon as people see stuff there, they post it. So you're aware of it. It's a great community. It's got a lot of information. I've met a lot of friends and people interacted. So be sure to check it out. It's a good place. So with that being said, this is technically 10 o'clock on a Friday night. I'm going to be at Monster Mania, so I'm going to get going. I will see you guys on the next Collectible Spotlight, where it should be a typical collector spotlight where I highlight something and delve into it and try to find a backstory and maybe give you a little bit more information on it. But do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification button. More things will be coming when the colder weather comes. I'm just doing these once a week now. I'm going to start doing some other stuff. And be sure to check out the podcast and check out the Instagram page. And I'll talk to you soon.